Hi, Angie here from Crafts at Home. Welcome back to this video series where I'm going to be featuring the art of quilting from Hair-Shape Artworks. Hopefully you will have completed up to issue 14 and have them stored ironed and flat ready for joining in later issues. With this issue we'll be making the Susanna block and you'll be receiving the blossom, lime gingham and red flower fabrics. Before you begin, iron all of your fabric so it's nice and flat. It'll make it easier to work with and improve the overall finish for your quilt. As the blocks continue to increase in difficulty, it's important to read through the instructions, make sure your cutting layouts are correct, and take notice if you need to flip a template over for multiple pieces. Let's start marking and cutting. So I've done all my markings as we've got on page 58 with the cutting layouts. So we're using the red flower, the lime gingham and the blossom. Make sure you do it at a 45-degree angle on the blossom so you've got the straight grain running from point to point. I'm going to cut that one first. Another way of checking, if you've got one of these rulers with a 45-degree mark on it, you can put that up against your line that you've made, inch it up to the top and make sure you've got a straight line running across the edge of the fabric and then down the one side of your diamond. So I'm just going to quickly cut off all four sides. There we are. So that is my blossom for the centre, and I'm just going to pop and cut all of these out, and I'll see you back in a moment where I'll show you how to piece. So I've laid all the block out as it'll be finished. Now the first thing we're going to do is take out the yellow blossom. Then take the red on the short side and fold it over that lime gingham. Match your edges up and pin along the long red edge. That's my first one. Again, red onto green. Match your edges up and pin together on the long red edge. Just want to make sure, take a bit of extra time as usual to make sure that everything is lined up really nicely. It will improve all of your seams and how your quilt lies, and just generally the overall finish of your quilt will be improved if you just take some extra time on making sure that everything is pinned perfectly. You get your 6mm seam allowance spot on, and you iron every seam in the correct way every time. So just popping the last couple of pins into this one. Again, making sure everything lines up. Last pin. Okay, so now I've got those 4 laid out. We're going to chain piece along this at the sewing machine, and I'll see you there in a moment. So I'm going to take the first of these pieces that we've already pinned. Now if you do it with the red flower at the top, so you're starting on the flat end, pop it in your 6mm and then start sewing. Stop just before your first pin and take that out, and then carry on to your next pin. I've actually got a lovely feature on my sewing machine where you can choose to stop and start with your needle down, because if you're lifting your foot out to take your pins, you need that needle through your fabric so it doesn't move. So I'm going to take my stitch saver because I'll be using that in a moment. Now I've come to the end, I'm going to pop my next one in. Again, foot up, take your pin out, foot back down. And sew off the end. Again with your next one, following exactly the same as what we've done so far. Pin out and carry on. So I'm going to carry on and do all 4 pieces, and I'll be back in a moment. So I've gone and sewn all 4 seams. Now we're going to press open towards the green. So just go over and then iron from red open to green. We'll repeat this for all 4. Now on to step 4, and I've actually already done it. I've marked in from my seams 6mm on all 4 edges. It's important at this stage because of what we're going to be doing next. So you take your first piece, and that slant on the red is where you want to butt up to. So we've got that nice and set there. I'm going to pop a couple of pins in, just double checking that everything is lying nice and flat. And normally I'd put a pin around there, but because of what we've got to do over at the sewing machine, I'm not going to. I'm going to step it in a bit, and I'll explain why in a moment. So I'm going to start my sewing from this edge here, but I don't want to start it from the edge. I want to start it where those 6mm seam lines cross. So you start there, go forward a couple of stitches, back, so you're back at that intersection, and then carry on. You carry on then to this intersection of your pencil lines, go back 3 stitches, go forward 2 stitches, and finish there. So once you've done that, come back and I'll show you what to do next. So if you look really carefully, you can see that I've only sewn on that seam line between these 2 seams. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're not going to iron, we're going to gently fold that out. Then you need to take your next piece, work where it will go. So have that up to there and fold over. So your outside edges match, and then it's going in. So I'm going to turn over, match that edge up and pin. And then I'm going to pull those quite nicely straight. And pin again. Now the idea with this seam is you start here on the outside as you normally would, and you go down, but you stop where your corner is from your red seam. So you've got where that matches to there, making sure that when you sew that seam stays down and you sew up to the edge of that seam there. So I'm going to pop and do that, and I'll be back in a moment. So I've just gone along this seam here, and I've stopped and backstitched a couple of sections just up to that point there. So as you can see, we're starting now to get the overall finish. So with that back, take it up and across to that corner. So just turn it round and make sure that everything's lying nice and flat. So again, I'm going to pop a pin in this side. And I'm going to pop a pin down here. Now it's important you work easily but carefully. Just be careful, because again you are working with a bias edge on here. So you want to go from the instep on there, securing there, going all along to here, and then securing there, but don't go on the seam any further. So I'm just going to sew this quickly and I'll be back. So I've gone along and I've got that seam done. As you can see, it matches perfectly on that edge. So now when I open it up, you can see it's starting to form the finished block. So we're now wanting to do a bit of ironing just to tidy everything up a bit. So ideally you're wanting all of your blossoms and all of your other seams to go out. So I'm just going to snip that very carefully so it will lie nice and flat and towards the out. So I'll do this side first. I'll turn round and go that way. So now I've got that ironing done. When I turn it over, you can see I haven't quite got a perfect match on that corner, but this is a more difficult block, so let's see how you go first. So your next block will go in here. Do exactly as we did for this piece, adding them on. So you match up to your outside here and turn over. Just make sure that you've got your seams nice and flat. So I'm going to pin that edge there. And I'm going to pin further up here. Now I'm going to make sure when I go through the machine from that way to that way, I run over this, keep making sure that that stays facing out towards the edge of the block, and I'm going to stop just where the point of the 6mm intersection is. So if I put a pin through that, you can see you're still in the red. So I'm going to quickly go to this sewing machine and do that, and I'll be back in a moment. So now we've set the first seam for our third outside piece. So again, if you have a look and fold open, it goes quite nicely into that seam. Again, you want to twist around. So have it twisted, take that seam between your fingers. Now I always have my finger underneath there to keep all the fabric up in the right way, and just twist round to the corner. Just remember, again, you are still working with a bias edge, so you want to make sure that everything isn't stretched too much. So I've got that matching, and I'm going to pin in there. And then that one's matching to pin in there. So as I sew, I'm going to make sure that that stays nice and flat. I'm going to start from that little intersection there, which if you stick a pin through, it works out on that seam there and 6mm out. So you've got to have your measurements precise. Then you're going to do a reinforced stitch there, stitch all the way down, and you will find that the intersection which is there, if I stick a pin straight through, is where the seam ends on that red piece there. So it's from that top piece there to where that is there. And as long as you make sure that's nicely out of the way, it won't get caught. So I'm going to quickly go and get this done, and I'll be back to start putting the final piece on. So I've just gone along this seam now, and if I open it up, you'll see that it's really starting to take shape. So I'm just going to finger press that one down to make sure that that stays out. So, putting on the final piece. You'd follow exactly the same thing that you did before. So you place it in, you fold it over. I'm going to turn over and work from this side so I can actually see what's going on and make sure that all my seams are pointing in the right direction. So I'm just going to pin that one in. Make sure that's lying nice and flat. And then pin down here. Just want to make sure that everything's nice and flat. Now we're going to go from the edge to that intersection there. You'll see you've got your straight edge going all the way along, and then you've got a seam coming up that stops, and it's where those two seams meet that you want to stop, because that will be just in on your yellow. So again, from the edge all the way down to where those seams intersect. I'll be back in a moment. So now on to this seam here. So we're going to now complete the centre, and again pop your finger underneath and just have it resting there. Your thumb and your forefinger on the corner and bring up. Just want to make sure again that everything lies nicely. I want to pop a pin in this side, and if you can, or you want to, you can put one in that side. Now for where we're going to sew. Again, it's really important, so I'm actually going to get an air erasable pen for this piece, and you want to make sure that you don't go over onto that red, but then you don't want to go too much onto the yellow. So I can feel where that seam is, and I'm just going to pop a dot in, and that is where everything meets up nicely. So I won't go too far over either way. I still stay out 6mm from the edge, and it turns out it is again just on that seam line. So you're going to go all the way down to meet up with that piece there again. So I'm going to pop off for this one, get this sewn, and I'll be back in a moment. So now we've gone on that one there, we are onto the final seam. So again, twist it round, make sure you've got hold of thumb and forefinger on that one, hook your finger in and bring all the way round. Just make sure everything is still lying nice and flat, and then you want to pop a pin in the end. And a pin here. So we're going to sew from the very end to where the intersection is. You can just see the purple mark from before. So just on that intersection is where you want to sew to, from the end to the intersection. I'll be back in a moment for the final iron. So we've just gone along that final seam now, and if we open it up you can see that the block is now complete. Before we leave it like that though, we're going to do a bit of ironing on the back. So just make sure that you iron everything nice and flat. You start off with the centred diamond and just make sure that everything else lies as flat as possible in a natural seam order. There we go. So as I turn this over now, we have our completed block. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and the block that we've created. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified of our new videos. Further information about Crafts at Home, the Crafts at Home forum, the art of quilting and hash-shape artworks can be found in the social media pages which are listed in the description. Don't forget to join us next week for issue 16 where we'll be making the Road to Oklahoma block. Bye for now.